Hi, everybody. Welcome to our third episode of Innerverse Collective. And today is a little bit of a different episode because we have our first special guest. We have Noor Hassan with us, and I'm super excited for this episode. I've already loved getting to know her and learning more about her story, and I think that everyone will love learning from her too. She's currently a freshman at Northwestern University, studying journalism. So she's focusing a lot on the intersection between storytelling and media and the ways that we can use those tools to have a real world impact. And really, all the work that she does is to use her voice to connect with people and turn personal experiences into something meaningful, which is just beautiful. Noor is a pediatric cancer survivor, and she grew up involved with Cycle for Survival. And she has her own fundraising team actually called Noor's Army, and she's raised over $1.5 million for rare cancer research, which is just absolutely unbelievable. She speaks a lot at events and shares her story to others, so there's a great chance that you have heard from her already. And outside of this advocacy work that she does, she's interested in media, marketing, and storytelling. And a lot of her experiences span the entertainment industry, different events, and a lot of women-focused organizations, so super cool work. And whether she's working on a creative project, interviewing someone on her own podcast, or just figuring out life as a freshman, which is a full-time job already, she's curious and energetic and very optimistic. So again, we're super thrilled to have her here as our first guest on the podcast. It's really meaningful to both of us. And she really believes that the stories that we tell have the power to change how we see the world and each other, which is why she has her own podcast to share her story and uplift the stories of others. So it was just a perfect opportunity for us to have her on the podcast. I read the article in Rolling Stone that recently came out about the work that she's doing, was absolutely blown away, and reached out to her and said I absolutely loved the work that she was doing and thought she would be a great fit to talk to me and Kendall and learn more about her story and share it with our community as well. So super happy to have her here. If I'm missing anything, definitely let me know, and feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we can kick it off with some of the questions.
Oh, perfect. I'm so excited.
Amazing. So we have a couple of questions here that me and Kendall thought of. We'll just walk through them, but we'll have an open dialogue, and really are just so excited to hear more about Noor and her story. The first question is one that I've been thinking a lot about. It's something that I think about myself, which is how did you find the courage to start sharing your story publicly? And as you've shared it more, how have you learned to protect your own emotional well-being in the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, courage was definitely something that I developed over time. So I guess like it kind of grew out of like gratitude and perspective from like my life experiences. And so yeah, I was diagnosed with cancer at a pretty young age. I was 4 years old, and so for most of my childhood, I didn't really understand kind of like what had happened to me and also like how to talk about that. A lot of the language that was used like around me was kind of like dimmed down just to like get me to kind of understand like the small aspects of what was going on, but not like the real kind of like hard stuff. So I kind of knew that like growing up, I obviously had known that I had survived something serious, but I never really knew like the severity of it and then also how I could help other people. So I think for me, like as I got older, especially like as I met other families through Cycle for Survival who like didn't have the same outcome, I kind of wanted to like share my story, but also I felt like I had a responsibility to kind of like share my story for others who couldn't. And so I kind of realized that like my voice could be useful to someone else, and that's really what pushed me to kind of start sharing publicly. At first, it was definitely very vulnerable and hard, and like I remember in middle school, I never really talked about it with anyone just because I didn't know how people would react, and it's like you're telling people about some of the most like jarring kind of crazy things about your life, and so there's always a fear of kind of being defined by that and like known as like the cancer kid. And so I guess for me, like there was that, but over time I also kind of learned that sharing my story didn't just mean like reliving trauma, but it also kind of meant like reclaiming it and like changing the narrative for other people. And so, yeah, I mean, protecting my well-being has also kind of been an evolution and like something that's built over time. I've kind of learned that like having boundaries is not selfish, and I think that like sometimes that kind of goes unnoticed and rather like they're necessary. And so like there's days that I obviously don't want to talk about it, or um, don't want to like share certain things, and like I allow myself to kind of have that and like keep that for myself. But I also try to make sure that like my life isn't centered around like hardship and like, what I went through. And so by talking about this, I kind of also prioritize like the normal experiences that came out of it and the friendships that came out of it and the joy that came out of it for my family and I. And so like for me particularly, like I've found that one of the like healthiest versions of advocacy kind of comes from like someone who's like living fullest, like the fullest that they can, and like not someone who's constantly like trying to recover wounds and like I guess like balance to me has been kind of like the key of like prioritizing that.
Wow. I mean, first of all, I don't even think I knew what a boundary was as a freshman in college. So, like, you are to start just like wise beyond your years, which is just, it's admirable for someone, obviously, how many years? I'm like April, like what, like 5 years?
Yeah.
Um, and to be able to kind of see that experience and turn the perspective into something that's a positive light, I think is very difficult for a majority of people. So to be able to gain that perspective at such a young age and share that, I think is so bold of you. I think really quickly, can you just, if you don't mind, explaining just to the audience exactly like what your cancer was,
Right. Yeah.
what your experience
Of
was like?
course. Yeah. So when I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with a rare kidney cancer called Wilms tumor. And so I had stage 4 Wilms tumor, which kind of developed over 6 months of treatment. So both chemo, radiation, and then ultimately resulted in my left kidney being removed. So I actually do only have one kidney. But it definitely was a very long process. I was treated at Memorial Sloan Kettering, which is a cancer hospital in Manhattan, and they were great. A lot of the drug trials that I was on was actually developed through Cycle for Survival, which is a nonprofit that raises funds for rare cancer research, which is kind of why we started working with them in the first place. But yeah, so the treatment process kind of went over 6 months of just surgery and IVs and radiation and chemo. And then recovery kind of took a year. So I also was out of school for almost a year and a half in and out of treatment, which was also something that kind of pushed me back a little bit just because like it was kindergarten, but at the same time there were like kind of foundational things that you learn at that age, and I missed out on that. But yeah, the doctors and surgeons at MSK were just great, and I was out of there in less than a year. So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, I obviously knew your story, but for those who are listening for the first time, it's incredible to hear the way you talk about it and the way that you've turned it into a positive and using those hardships to help people. And that's something kind of when I talk about a lot is like all the things that you go through in your life, the good and the bad, it all is worth it in the end if you're able to use that as a force for good. And the fact that you've been able to do that at such a large scale is just so beyond impressive. And that actually informs my next question, which is looking at the impact of the impact that you've had through your fundraising and this advocacy work, which has been immense and probably immeasurable in some ways. And so outside of like the tangible fundraising and impact that you've had in that way, what has been the aspect of it that has moved you the most and inspired you the most? And is there either a specific person or a story, maybe someone that you've interviewed on your podcast or someone that you've met along the way that has made you look back on all of that hardship and suffering that you went through as such a young, innocent child and thought maybe not this is why it's all worth it, but this makes it a little bit easier knowing that I'm able to have that impact? Is there any specific?
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. There's actually two people that I can think of. I'll share the first one. So last year, I think during our Cycle for Survival event, after the first hour, I think, because it's basically the way that it works is it's a 4 hour like indoor cycling class, and they have speeches in between each of them. And so I was the last person to speak at the fourth hour, but at the for after the first ride, this mother got up on stage and started talking about her daughter and how she's going through treatment and how she has Wilms tumor and all of this. And I was like, oh my God, because less than 3 hours later, I'm literally about to get up and share that exact story, but from the perspective of her daughter. And so I didn't go up to her like after she spoke, but after I spoke, she came up to me and she kind of just like, it was almost like a breath of fresh air to kind of like speak to somebody who had been through that experience, at least like from what it seemed like on her perspective, just because she seemed so relieved that she could talk to someone who like went through this exact same thing and is now standing here 14 years later saying that they're cancer free. And I really loved that moment just because I actually talked about it on my podcast as well. I think it was so meaningful to me because it showed me like why these moments are important and like why like something like Noor's Army and like us showing up has an impact on other people. And so for me, that was kind of just like the moment where I was like, wow, like if I hadn't shared my story, if I hadn't gone out and like spoken about this, I may not have been able to provide hope to somebody whose kid is going through treatment and is, I don't know, like is whose outcome is unexpected. And so that for me was really, it was just really moving because it kind of reminded me how strong the community is and like reminded me that hope was like really contagious. And then this is another fun story that I love is that while I was going through treatment, there was this woman who was like they call it like not a guidance counselor, but you have someone who kind of, particularly for pediatric patients, who like stays with you and does art with you and like just kind of like keeps you doing childhood things in like a place where it's pretty hard to like maintain that lifestyle. And so she was like my best friend. She was obviously, I think she was like 20 something. She was way older than me, but we would do all these fun activities together and we were really, really close and then like did not stay in touch after that. And so my parents obviously had her contact, but like I never really reached out to her. Always wanted to, but just it never came up. And after I published the article, actually, the Rolling Stones article, I had to reach out to her because I mentioned her in the article. And so I needed to like kind of get consent from her, but she had read the article before it was published and like read the part on her and like just like connecting with somebody who was there for me during a time when I was so sick was just also so meaningful. And like we FaceTimed and talked about like her life now and like the many things that we remember from when we were together. And like that was just very kind of like heartwarming to me because though again like that was a really like hard time for me, I had somebody in my life who kind of shadowed that and like made it seem like it was like I could be happy still and be a kid, which was like a really hard thing at the time. And so like being able to reconnect with her and like see that she's still doing the same thing for other kids and also that like she helped me grow into the person that I am today was also really, really nice. So I think those two stories are definitely like what has like allowed me to like kind of just like pause and be like, wait, like this is why I'm here and this is why it's worth it and like this is why I need to kind of continue doing what I'm doing.
I love that. I think being able to be a symbol of hope for people is such a great thing, you know, because not everyone has a story that they're really able to connect with someone on, especially yours, it's very niche. So someone else being able to look at you and be like, okay, she survived this, she got through it, and she is not defined by this, but she is able to just, you know, be who she is and also speak on her strength, I think is super admirable. And I think what it all comes down to is when you forget about all the noise, it comes back to just human connection, being there for people and understanding that when you're there for other people, you end up filling your own cup.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what is most important. It's obviously tough that it's these really hard and traumatic events that remind you of that. But it's always a needed perspective. And I think that segueing into our next question is you're obviously a college student, so you obviously have a lot to navigate on your own. As Ali said, it's a full-time job in itself. But how do you manage and balance kind of maintaining your own joy while still showing up and being there for other people?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think like being fully transparent, it's still something that I'm kind of learning to do and working on. Um, I give all the credit to my mom though. Like I think that like she is like the prime example of like somebody who is working constantly and is like being there for my dad, for me and like our whole family, but also for literally anyone else that she's met, like just the kindest person and like somebody who kind of like will do go out of their way to do anything for anyone even if they're struggling. And so I think for me like that's kind of what's not motivating me but kind of like what I'm looking off of and being like I want to be more like that. And so I also think for the longest time I thought that empathy kind of meant like carrying other people's pain with me, but I've kind of come to like understand that like compassion doesn't really require self-sacrifice and you can like care deeply for somebody without losing yourself and without focusing on yourself. And so being a college student has kind of actually helped me with this balance, because I'm kind of at a stage in my life where I am discovering kind of who I am outside of my cancer experience, like academically, socially, like kind of what I want to do in life. And so by like meeting new people, like making mistakes, growing, like that's kind of what like those experiences are like not distractions from my advocacy, but they're kind of like what sustain it. And so when I'm going to help other people, like protecting my joy also means like giving myself permission to live fully. And so I think I've also always just been the type of person that you can come to kind of whenever and like I will stop everything just to help. And like I'm an only child, but I hate that I'm an only child. Like I've always wanted a sibling so that I can just kind of talk and be there for someone. And so I I think that when I'm able to kind of share my own story, and even if it's not about myself, like I still enjoy helping other people because I think that the skills that I've learned from sharing my story can kind of translate over into like anything else and like talking to other people about their experiences. And I think that like for me, I can also just like I've been focusing on kind of holding space for grief, but also looking at like the bright side of it and like kind of acknowledging that like those can exist at the same time, and that's normal, you know. I'm not sure if that answered everything that you but
Yeah, I mean, I totally relate to what you're saying, and I think, like, even zooming out for a second and looking at the world, the state of the world right now, a lot of things feel really heavy. And as someone who, similar to you, considers myself an empath and cares a lot about other people and can always show up for people, it's very easy to feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. On a large and small scale, like I feel that way with my friends. If my friend is struggling or they're going through something, I'm like losing sleep at night because I want to help them and I am thinking about what to say and what advice to give them. And on a macro scale, like looking at the world and how much hate and division and anxiety that people feel every single day, it's really hard to go to bed at night and be like acknowledging the privilege that you have and the luxuries that you have, but also feeling sad and leaving space for grief, like you said. I think it's a very difficult thing to navigate, so I give you a lot of credit in this particular context for really working on that and prioritizing it, because my mom will always say to me, like, you can't help other people unless you help yourself first. And that's, to me, I hear that and I'm like, that sounds selfish. I'm like, that sounds like not the type of person that I want to be. But at the end of the day, it kind of is really true, because you have to be able to have that peace of mind within yourself and security within yourself to be able to extend yourself to others, even if you want to do it when you're down yourself. But there has to be a balance. So I give you a lot of credit for trying to navigate that, at least, because I know it's not an easy feat.
yeah, for sure.
And Nora, as you said, I think it really all goes back to balance. Like, it's something I think we all struggle with. I say to myself every day, I'm like, it's all about balance. It's okay. Like, it's fine if you slipped one day, look at it on a weekly scale instead of a daily scale. But I mean, yeah, I think I liked a lot what you said about, and I'm going to take it with me, about how it doesn't always have to be like a self-sabotage thing where you're taking on the weight of the world with someone else. Um, there's space for both. I think that that's, you get told a lot that you're like very wise. Do you not? Like I'm talking to
I
you, I'm like, like
I
I'm
wish
like,
I
so
wish I could say I was, but
well, you are to me.
oh, thank you. But yeah, no,
Um,
I agree with you guys. I think yeah, it's definitely like my mom says something similar to me as well about like you can't help people unless you help yourself because like you're not going to be fully there for them and like you really have to. I don't know. It's like a holistic thing, I guess.
totally. Okay, this question is on a little bit of a different note, but in terms of obviously you were so young when you were diagnosed, if your 5-year-old self could look at,
Sorry, my thing
is
fell.
it the ring light?
Down goes the ring light. Oh, okay, ignore me while I figure out how to do this.
All
Give me a
good.
second.
Um, if your 5-year-old self could look at you now, what do you think would make her the most proud?
It's a really hard question. I think that I guess I'll take this in like two different ways.
Yeah.
What I'll say, like relating to my like experience with my story and like sharing that, I think that she would be proud that I kind of turned something known to be scary to talk about into something meaningful and something that brought so many people in my community, like my family and my friends together. Um, like I think that there's just like I don't think I could have ever seen myself being so open about my own story than I am today. And like, I think that that's just something that honestly, even right now, like I'm very proud of. But I also think on another note, more of like a personality thing and just kind of like who I've become today. I think that I've put a lot of focus on kind of just um like prioritizing myself and being like knowing my like trusting my gut feelings and also like knowing myself when I feel a certain way. And I think that a lot of times it's really hard to kind of like go with something that you feel even if you know it might be not risky but you know that it might not benefit other people. And I think that that's something that I've really been working on as I've grown up was kind of being like, hey, it's okay if I need a minute to myself, or it's okay if I don't want to go to this because I just want to hang out with my family, or I need a minute to just kind of sit with myself and doom scroll. Like, I think that like that took a really long time for me to understand. And honestly, was seen even when I was younger. Like, I would want to go to everything, like all my family events, all the birthday parties, and like I think that growing up and especially being a college student right now, like I've learned a lot about how precious like your own time is and how also like it's okay to kind of like sit alone and be alone for a moment. And so I think that that's also something that I would say was she'd be proud of me. So
Yeah, I mean that's another very difficult thing that I work on every day is the balance of having fun and I feel it myself now because I work 5 days a week in person. I do a variety of different activities after work every single day and I love keeping myself busy and feeling like I'm doing good things and developing myself and my creativity and my friendships and everything. But it's very hard to find the balance between also having time to just sit and doom scroll, like you said, or to read or whatever it might be. And Kendall and I in our last episode were talking about that because we feel this like weird guilt of if we're not doing things that are benefiting us in some way, like that it's a waste of time or whatever, like figuring out that perfect in between of being there with other people and socializing, but also like sitting with yourself. And I think people are very scared to do that, which is why we're constantly consuming information and media and scrolling and all of this stuff because people are genuinely afraid to be alone with their thoughts or to be alone with themselves. It causes a lot of problems in society, and having the strength to say, no, actually, I know what I need and recognizing that is something that I think is rare. It's something that I really am working on myself too, and just honoring my needs at the moment and being like, okay, well, tonight I actually really want to go out and be with my friends and have fun, or no, I'm actually exhausted and I had a really shitty day at work and I just want to be alone. Like it's hard to do that. So you should be very proud of yourself in working on that and trying to figure it out, because I mean, Kendall and I talk about it all the time. Like it's really hard to do.
This might be just a personal experience and struggle that I face, but I was just thinking about it. I think the reason why I struggle with that guilt of like not doing anything is because I am not actually ever like doing nothing, if that makes sense. Like I'm always filling it with the wrong things, where the moments where I'm supposed to really rest, I'm like still doom scrolling, but it still takes mental energy. And it's that inner guilt of like, okay, well, I'm still not prioritizing myself because I still don't feel truly relaxed. Yeah, I mean, I guess a big theme of this episode is balance, and trying to find that. It's a struggle. It's a working
It's a
struggle.
real societal struggle right now, is that people don't know how to rest. And one aspect of it is that we have this hustle culture, burnout culture, productivity culture, which is just pushing you to the edge in everything you do and working until you can't anymore.
Yep.
And the other part of it is the rise of social media and the online world and presence that's so captivating. But like you said, when you're sitting in your bed resting, but you're doom scrolling, that's not rest. And I actually try to find more mindless hobbies that you feel like you're wasting your time. Like I have a book of crossword puzzles next to my bed in my nightstand, and every time I do it, I'm like looking at the clock. I'm like, how many more minutes do I have to do this for? Because I have 100 other things I could be doing. But I literally have to force myself to be like, actually, no, this is what I need to be doing right now, because my brain needs a sec, because I'm like going crazy. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overstimulated. I need to just sit and focus on one thing. Because let's say, even if you're sitting in bed doom scrolling, you also have your TV on, or you're listening to music, or you're whatever. Like that's not rest.
Yeah.
It's not relaxing. It's hard.
Yeah. I actually have I have like a mini, like a journal of like 100 New York Times crosswords. I don't know where, I think I got it at like some like random bookstore. But I try to like do it before I go to bed every night and just kind of like put my phone down before I go to bed. But I know what you're saying, because it's really hard. Like I want to just like pick up my phone and be like, okay, what am I missing? Like what's going on? Like who's doing what? And it's so unhealthy, and I know it's unhealthy, but I still always go back to it. And I think like, especially the first quarter, or my first quarter here, it was really hard because I was like, okay, like I'm going to give myself 20 minutes, 30 minutes to just read a book. And the same thing, like I kept looking at the time and being like, or like looking at how many pages I had left to get to the next chapter. And I was like, when can I put this book down? And I don't know, it's kind of interesting to see like how that changes over time. But cause when I was younger, my like hobbies of ways that I'd pass time would be like coloring, or like, I don't even know, doing the most random crafts. But yeah, it's crazy how time consuming, and also like mentally consuming, just having like social media and also like devices around you is. But.
Yeah. It's like that dopamine addiction, and not in the good sense, you know. It's like that instant gratification that we need. I mean, it's straight up an addiction, and it's scary. And I would love to really deep dive into like the psychological effects that social media specifically is having on our brains, because I think that's what it is like we're addicted to just seeing other people's lives. And I don't really understand why.
You should look into Jonathan Haidt. He's the author of this book called The Anxious Generation, and I love that book. He's incredible. He came to speak at our festival this year, and it basically talks about the impacts of social media on this generation, and my sister's generation, who, and I guess our generation too, but they grew up on social media, and they had their phones in 5th grade. I mean, so did we. So I'm talking shit, but I shouldn't be. But like your childhood kind of just got shortened because of it, which is really sad. And there's a graphic that Jonathan, I guess, created, and it's a brain that grew around the phone, and it shows like the formation of how when you grow up with social media and all this stuff that you're literally forming your brain around it's so fascinating. You should look
I'm
into
gonna
it.
look
And
into it.
yeah, you would love the book. There's an audiobook also. And Scott Galloway also is, I mean, I love him for many reasons, but he talks about that a lot too. And he calls it like slow dopa, which is those like lower stimulating hobbies and habits that we should all be adopting to program our brains. And a lot of it really comes back to, like you said, connecting back with your inner child and doing those things that you used to love as a kid that now, whether it's you're a student or you're working or whatever it might be, that you don't do anymore, and you neglect that part of yourself and your creativity because you're just focused on getting through the day and surviving your day of classes or getting through your day of work or trying to get through the days of work to the weekend, and you're not like enjoying. And I think there's a lot to be said about spending the time to do those things. And that's actually my next question for you is, can you tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you like to do in your free time, your hobbies? I know you said the crossword puzzles, but if there's anything else that,
Yeah, no, of
obviously,
course.
we are looking for inspo.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will say that I think I've always just been a very creative person, and I love doing, like, I love crafts. Like, I think that that's always brought me joy. Actually, this, like, thing right above my bed is just I framed a bunch of letters that I've gotten and, like, little notes, and, like, it's just, like, a personalized thing, but I love things like that, and so I will literally spend hours just, like, making collages or honestly sometimes online, like I'll make like fun videos of
Cool.
just like things that I've been doing, or like if I'm going on a trip, like
Hmm.
or if I've gone on a trip, I'll make like a montage of it, or just stuff like that. But I I love kind of just like sitting with myself and looking at like things that are really important to me, and then kind of like repurposing them so that I can have them in my life right now. I also love journaling. I think that like that's actually what got me into wanting to like be a journalism major and enjoy writing, was just how much I love being able to kind of express so many different things on a paper. And I have had actually the same diary since third grade, I want to say, maybe even earlier than that,
How
that
many
I
pages is this diary?
it's I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, that is a
It's
life diary.
getting,
Wow.
it's literally getting to it's gonna need to go soon. It's gonna
That
need
is
to be
so
like
cool. That's
doubled.
awesome.
But I do think that like there's a lot to say about like, for me, something that calms me all the time is just like being able to write and just like write what's in my head and write what's going on. And I think that that is something that not a lot of people, I think, like understand how like actually helpful that is. And so that's one of my like biggest hobbies, I would say, was just like writing and like making things for myself and for other people. I also play volleyball, or played volleyball I should say,
Cool.
but that's just like another outlet for me, is just kind of like physical activity. So like going to core power, doing yoga, solid core, like SLT, all of that, like that really kind of just helps me take a break from what's going on outside the world, and like, or outside of like society and everything else, like because as you mentioned, like there it's crazy right now. So being able to kind of just like put my phone down and like be in a room and not think about anything and just like kind of like challenge myself has been really, like, that's just a really nice way for me to kind of not like separate myself from everything. um and then I would say I also grew up dancing a lot. So I was in a pre-professional program for 8 years of my life. And I like genuinely thought I was like gonna go to school for ballet and like be a dancer, and that didn't happen. But I also will say that like I think dance had taught me a lot about like music in general. And so another thing that I just like love doing is just like taking a walk and listening to music. My friends actually always make fun of me because I always have an AirPod in because I'm just constantly listening to music. But yeah, I mean, I would just say like honestly doing most of the creative stuff, and then taking time for myself and being with my friends. I consider myself an extrovert, so spending a lot of time with like my friends and family is also what brings me energy. And so trying new things, like new restaurants, or just even like sitting at home and watching a movie with them, like that is just like something that I love doing.
I love that. I definitely connect with you. Everything that you said resonates a lot. I've spoken to Ali a lot about this, but I've been trying to kind of find that like inner child within me again. And I mean, I actually went to Michigan. I was in the art and design school. So when it comes to like that tangible creativity, I think that that's something that you can't get that fix in through scrolling.
Yeah.
Um, so like being able to kind of, whether it's collaging or even creative storytelling and writing things down, I definitely resonated. I actually wrote like a personal article last night. I was up until like 2 a.m. My mind was just running, but it was essentially like tapping into the things that you really feel passionate about. And it's
Yeah.
listening to music, dancing, like really channeling that inner child. And I think that Mel Robbins says this a lot, but in moments where you feel like anxious or depressed, if you focus on things that you feel passionate about or the creative side in you, it's not possible to overthink. And I think that that's just, it's telling. And I think like even just hearing what you're saying and like just disconnecting from the world and hearing the things that you love to do, I can tell it shows
Yeah.
that you love it. So yeah, I mean, Allie, I know that you can definitely relate on
Yeah.
connecting to the inner child of it all as well.
For sure. And I am very inspired by what you said about even like when you said you go on a trip and you take all these pictures and videos and you turn it into something. That's such a brilliant idea because I love photography. I take pictures of everything. I actually just stole my sister's old camera, which again, if she's listening, she's not gonna be so happy. But she left it at home when she went back to school and she never uses it. So I was like, I'm gonna take it because I take pictures all the time. And I've been trying to find ways to share the pictures that I take outside of just posting on social media because as stupid as this sounds, I love like curating my pictures even if it's for social media because that's like a form of
No,
creative
the same
expression.
way.
Like it sounds stupid and whatever, but I'll shamelessly admit that. But I if I also was like I'm going to turn them into a scrapbook when I've done that before for people that I love, whether it was like a boyfriend or a friend or like after I studied abroad, I had all these pictures that I took on cameras and I printed them off and wanted to make it into a scrapbook, but I never did. But turning them into a montage, didn't you do something like that, Kendall, when we
Yeah, well,
went
our
away?
our our senior spring break, I made us
Yes. Oh
I'm
my
on,
gosh.
yeah.
I love that idea. Do you take the videos on your phone or do you have a camera also?
It was on my phone and I wanted to give that like camcorder effect. So I like looked like a grandfather. I was recording everything like this
I
around,
love
but I
it.
mean it made for a really cute video. But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's amazing, and I'm struggling now to find the balance between like not feeling like I have to capture everything because it's kind of annoying
Yeah.
to other people, I think, and I it kind of also takes away from the intimacy of moments, or it makes it feel like oh you're just doing it for the Instagram or whatever. But that's genuinely not what it is. Like I will look at something and I'll be like I want to see like for example I was at brunch earlier and we were looking out the window, the snow was falling and it was so gorgeous and I was just
Yeah.
taking a video of it. My friends who I was staying with were like what are you doing? And I was like I don't know, it's so pretty, like I don't know, you want to save things. And I will not do anything with that video, but I'm just gonna have it. It's like when you go to a concert and you record the entire thing and you're like,
Yeah.
why did I do
Yep.
that?
And
Because
you can
I've
hear
never
yourself in the
once,
back.
Yep.
yeah, I've never once looked back at a video at a concert and watched it or done anything with it, but it's this like human innate feeling of like, I love this so much, I want to have it forever. And you
Yeah.
can have that with photos. So I feel like it's a beautiful thing, but there's a balance between like also just being fully present and not feeling like you have to capture it all. And that's kind of what makes it so special is that it's a fleeting moment, but that's scary.
Agree. Okay, I mean, we're on our last couple of questions. I think this is kind of a repeat, so if you have nothing to add, that's totally fine. As you know, Innerverse Collective, we're building a space where people can talk about mental health and wellness. Um, Obviously, I know you mentioned that you journal, you love physical activity, but is there anything else you think valuable for anyone else to hear about your wellness routine? Anything, any tips, tricks, hacks, anything that you love?
Yeah, I actually will give credit to Mel Robbins as well. So when you brought her up earlier, I was like, I have something to say about this. I recently read The Let Them Theory, which I genuinely think like everyone needs to read. That book
Agreed.
like changed my perspective on so many things. And I know that like a lot of it was also meant for people older than me, but it still can be carried into anything. And I will say like my wellness routine, yeah, it does include journaling and taking time for myself and listening to music and having those moments, but it also is a lot of like mental understanding of what's going on around me. And she emphasizes in this book about like letting people do, like not caring about other people and what they do and kind of being like, let them do that. Like let them hang out without you, or let them post this that you're not in, and that's fine. And I think that I keep going back to different chapters of her book in my head and kind of being like, wait, like I can use this right now. And I had always kind of had, I'm just a very anxious person. Like I've always been kind of an anxious person. And so I never really had, I wouldn't say a guide, but like I would say that that was like her book really, really kind of helped me understand ways that I can calm myself down and also think of like different situations in a different light. And so through that I've like learned that like purpose is also part of wellness, I guess I'd say. So like doing like meaningful things and then having conversations that matter even if they're hard, and like that type of thing, that also has really been like helpful to support my mental health.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would also just emphasize like not trying to live life so planned, and so like kind of just leaving room for like a spontaneous adventure, or just like humor and friendships, and like I don't know, just like something fun, because I feel like everyone, at least right now, like from what I understand in college, like everyone kind of feels like they have to have everything planned out, like what they want to do a year from now, 10 years from now, like their whole life. And I think that like that can be really stressful. So living in the moment and just kind of like allowing yourself to like grow as you go, and like kind of like not really put a certain pressure on yourself and a certain task that like you want to be completed by a certain event. Because I also did come into school wanting to be a journalism major, and I do love writing, but I also know that I don't want to be a journalist. And that was something that changed over time. And like that was also like that gave me anxiety, because I was like, well, I'm in Medill and all these people want to be journalists, and I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I don't want to do this. And so kind of just like allowing yourself to like really adapt as you grow, and like not put certain limits on yourself, I'd say.
Totally. I feel like with the let them theory, it's like this idea of letting life also do its thing,
Yeah.
and knowing that, you do things intuitively and life will kind of take you where you need to be. I also just want to mention I reread books a million times, and the book that I am rereading right now is The Let
No
Them Theory.
way.
So
No way.
yeah, I take the
Yeah.
notes off of it.
Agreed.
But as you were like, yeah, I revisit chapters in my brain. I'm literally looking at the book, like rereading a chapter later.
It's so good.
It's so good.
I got it for my mom for Christmas. I was like, you need to read this. It's so
My
good.
family does this thing where it's like my mom will have the book and then she'll give it to me and then she'll give it to my sister. It's like a
Aw.
sisterhood of the traveling book. But yeah, I mean, she's incredible, and I think she's really had an impact on so many people.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you can also tell yourself, yeah, I'm studying this because I want to do this, or I'm
Yeah.
talking to this person because I want this to happen. But at the end of the day, life is going to do what life's going to do. Like you said, you can't, there's so much that's out of your control. So it's kind of easier to just go with the flow. And I think even if you are in the journalism school right now and you recognize that that's not what you want to do, that doesn't mean that you can't get there with your degree and your background. And you're obviously a very capable and smart person. So no matter what you want to do, you'll do it. I'm fully confident in that. And I'm actually curious, and this kind of goes against everything you just said, but do you have an idea of what you do want to do, or you just are like, this is not for me?
No, yeah, it's a good question. I actually do. I mean, I think this kind of comes from being really like my creative side.
Yeah.
I don't, okay, well, I'll say I don't know exactly like what kind of like job position I want to do, but I definitely want to do something creative, and whether that's marketing or advertisement or I don't know, just like something along those lines kind of just seems really exciting to me because I'd be able to combine my interests in like actually like working and doing work, and then also for a company that I am working for. Another thing that's kind of niche and random, I think it'd be really cool to be like a talent agent. I don't know, that's just like another like so random. I don't know where that comes from. But I just think it'd be cool. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think I definitely want to do something that I like that follows a hobby of mine. Like I think I also came into college being like, oh, well, maybe I'll go into finance, and finance is great and it's really impressive, but I'm not that type of person. And I have so much respect for people that can work with numbers like that and do that, but I can't. And so I also knew like I could push myself to do this and kind of like sit here and work these numbers, but at the same time, like I'm not going to be happy at my job if I do end up recruiting or doing all of that. But so I think, yeah, at least for me, like it's just really important that what I do follows a hobby of mine, and kind of like I think that like that would end up being something creative. So
Yeah, I love that. Kendall and I were just talking about, because I was similarly, like, I had a realization where I will not be happy if I spend that's dramatic, but I would prefer to not have to stare at a screen from 9 to 5
yeah,
for every day for the rest of my life. I was
yeah,
like, maybe that's crazy of me to say, and I recognize that so many people do that, and there's nothing really wrong with it, but I'm like halfway through the day, my eyes are uncontrollably watering and burning, and my back is hurting, my neck is hurting, and I'm hunched over, and like I it just doesn't work for me. And I think there's so much power and value into learning what you don't like and what you don't want to do, even more so than what you think you want to do, because it's going to change a million times. And I'm on my second job out of graduating, and some people are on their third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and you owe it to yourself to do what's going to make you feel happy and fulfilled. And I think I 100% agree that doing what you feel passionate about will lead you to the greatest success. And
yeah,
Scott Galloway talks about that all the time too. He's like, don't do, don't just do what you want to do, also do what you're good at. But they're connected, because what you want to do is what you will be good at, because you'll put the time and energy into professional development and bettering yourself in that way. But it's a wild roller coaster. And if I think back to what I thought I would be doing now, freshman year of college, I'm not there. So it's kind of just par for the course, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what you said about what Scott Galloway said, and doing what you love, but also what you're good at. Jay Shetty talks about this
Yeah.
a lot, and it's called finding
Or
your
maybe
dharma.
it's Jay and not Scott.
It might be Jay.
It might be Jay. I'm
Um,
mixing
but
my
it's
favorite man.
but it's all about dharma, and it's really like tapping into not only what you love, but what you
Yeah.
love and what you could offer to other people. And that
Hmm.
you'll notice it comes with experience, it comes with time. I mean, someone years older than Allie and I are probably laughing at us saying, "Oh, you still have so much time to figure it out too." But Allie and I like had a conversation the other day where we were kind of like, we're having a quarter life crisis. Like,
Yeah.
meant to go, what are we supposed to be doing? And I think that that's just
We
you're
moved to
always
Europe.
figuring it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
exactly. I was actually talking last night about how I like really want to move, and they were like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, it's calling." Um, but yeah, I think you have an amazing head start in just your mindset, and the rest will come if you have good perspective. At the end of the
Hmm.
day, we say this all the time, but it's 90% how you look at things, and it's only 10% what actually happens to you. So I think the cards will fall where they should, as long as you kind of keep that
Yeah.
mindset.
yeah.
Um, and then to wrap it all up, I know that again, you're in college, so totally okay if you don't have anything in particular that you're promoting right now, but we always just want to kind of open the floor if there's anything that you want to talk about or anything that you want anyone else to know about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this at the beginning, but obviously I also do have my own podcast, and I think like being in college for me, that's been really hard to kind of maintain, not only to find time, but also to find people that I can have on it. And so
Yeah.
I actually haven't had any new guests since being in college, just because I don't know, it's been kind of crazy organizing everything.
Yeah.
But I would just say that I definitely, not to self-promote, but I definitely would love for people to kind of look at that and take any kind of piece of advice from anything that they hear, because some of the people that I've interviewed on there are genuinely incredible and have some great stories. And even if you don't necessarily have any experience with cancer, sorry, or anything of that sort, I think it can still be super beneficial in like the way that you look at life and the way that can kind of like guide you through everyday experiences. I will say like it's taught me a lot about myself and about just life in general, talking to all these people and hearing their experiences. And so I think I would definitely emphasize that. And then, yeah, I think that's.
And your article.
Yes, and my article. Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy. That took me over a year to like write and get edited, and I was working with this amazing editor. His name's Paul Solitroff from Rolling Stones, and he's great. But yeah, it was a really great experience to kind of get my voice out there and try and help other people.
That's awesome. Amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
Tell everyone the name of the podcast and where they can.
Oh, right. That's probably a great idea.
Well, you can also link it below.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll
yeah.
get it for
I
you.
can send you all the details, but yeah, the podcast I have is called Cancer Echoes, and it's actually available on most platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I can give a list of the other places, but it's pretty much available everywhere. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Amazing. Noor, thank you so much for taking the time. We know that
Thank you guys.
it's season on a Sunday.
Of course.
I remember Sundays in college.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
no, of course. Thank you guys for having me. This was great.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for everyone to listen and learn more about you and to share your story, because it really is just incredible. So thank you.